are back. Right off the top, I have been having some internet issues, but I'm hoping the show runs smoothly from here. Welcome back to the self-proclaimed best NFL betting show on the internet. I'm your host, Dustin Saraceni, alongside some of the best analysts in the game. You know Alpha Dog Bets. You know Matt Jacob. Fellas, we've got a hell of a divisional round to cap. Before we get into them, though, let's talk about some of these headlines, right? And I want to talk about the poor product of the NFL. I mean, we saw it throughout the regular season, and then it shined its head again one more time in the divisional round, right? I think there was basically 5 blowouts out of the 6 games that we saw, with the Commanders and Bucks being our best game of the week. This week, of course, will be different, but I want to get your thoughts here. Is there one too many wildcard teams here, or were we at the mercy of the matchups? Alpha, what are your thoughts on this poor product for the wildcard round?
I got to be honest. There's one person who's been on this all year long, and there's one person on this set who has been talking about the lack of talent in the NFL all year long, and that is Mr. Matt over there, who has been preaching this since early in the year. There is a talent deficit in the NFL right now, and it was very apparent in the Super Wildcard weekend last weekend. As you said, the only game that was halfway decent, and it was a very good game, was that Washington Commanders Tampa Bay Bucks game that was 23-20. But outside of that, everything was really a blowout. I'm very surprised with how the wildcard round went. I know I did pretty well in the round, but as you said, there's definitely a talent gap in the NFL right now, and I think that we saw it on full display last weekend. Do I think there's too many wildcard teams? Maybe. Would I change it? No. I like more playoff games, so I'd keep it the way it is. But I do think the big issue is the talent gap between the top teams in the league and the middle, better teams in the league. They're not very close at all.
More games mean more games to wager on. Good for us, good for business.
Exactly.
Matt, what are your thoughts on the wild card round, man?
Yeah, it was a season of have and have nots. It was that way last year too, and it just bore itself. I mean, when you get a wild card round with one team that's basically a 10-point favorite, as the Ravens were against the Steelers, and another team that's an 8-point favorite as the Bills were, I mean, it just tells you what you need to know. I mean, there are two. It's like any sport. The more you add, the more saturated the playoffs get. I mean, you get these teams, you get 16-team NBA. Remember when baseball was 4 teams? I mean, though you don't get many games to bet on or watch, but those were really competitive for the most part. You just don't get it. Now, when we get to the championship round, we have been seeing competitive championship games. But I think, look at the lines this week. You got a 6, you got a 7.5 or 8.5 and a 9.5. So I wouldn't be surprised, at least the odds maker telling you, don't expect much different this week.
I know. I think there's maybe one game that's just basically a normal point spread, and that's obviously the pick 'em between the Ravens and the Bills. Everything else, like Rams Eagles plus 6.5, Commanders Lions 9.5. It was at 10 at one point. We got the Chiefs minus 8.5. So we'll see.
And all those games open big, right? And they went up. So it just
it shows you where the money's going too.
Yeah.
And guys, obviously we talk about betting here. Saquon Barkley, he ruined so many slips last week by kneeling down or sliding down, whatever you want to call it, instead of scoring that 50 yarder. I'm convinced Saquon has his own PR team in his head too. I mean, I wasn't on any of his TD props this week, but we all saw that highlight of him ripping off a 60-yard TD and then blaming it on the what if game. What if I tore my hammy? What if I got injured? Which is, it makes total sense to me. But what's your take on this from a betting perspective? Because I know a lot of bettors were rattled about that slide. Matt, you can go ahead.
Yeah, from a betting perspective, it depends on which side you're on, obviously. But you could have been on this under rushing yards total, and that could have blown up or whatever too. So always perspective there. But I know I know what we do, what we're talking about for a living. But guys, this is football. That was a smart freaking play. It just is. When guys go down at the 1 instead of go up, 13 points when they're up, there's no chance that team can. There's the tiniest amount of chance that the team can come back, but there's still that tiny chance. You go down, there's no chance, 0 chance. It's just a smart play.
See, that's why I try and leave my complaining in my head instead of going to Twitter and complaining about my bets. Because at the end of the day, man, the players don't give a shit about your bets. They don't care about your parlays. They don't care about anything. Especially in the playoffs, they care about winning. Their fantasy team. That's why I try not to complain about bets online, just because I know I look like a baby right now. But so many people do it, and I'm like, man, what do you expect?
I feel for them. Of course you feel for them, but it's if I was on that, I would have gone, that really sucked. But what are you going to do? It was the right play.
Alpha, were you on any Saquon props? Did that screw you at all?
So I was on his rushing and receiving over of 118.5, and that did get him over that total. So I was happy he still got over. He went down, I believe it was 2 yards over, so he got just
wow.
me. But
wow.
I am so sick of reading all these posts of these morons who said it was the wrong decision to go down.
Yeah, that's
you go
insane.
down and you have 100% chance to win the game. It was absolutely the right decision. And he should do that in every chance you can. When you can go down and end the game and kneel it out, that's 100% victory. Take the win, advance in the playoffs. I know they could have upped the score, made it a much larger one. They were already up by a lot of points, but it was absolutely the right decision. And everybody said
injuries too. Like, it makes total sense. Like, after he explained it, I mean, I already knew, but like coming from him, I'm like, okay, you definitely should have slid there. Good for you, buddy.
It was the right decision.
What's he going to do? Run down there and then drop the ball at the 2-yard line like some players have done in the past before they go in the end zone? You know,
we've seen that a few times this year.
I honestly, I can't believe we're in 2024 and players are still doing it. Jonathan Taylor.
That's about to say
that was
JT.
That was bad. That was bad.
Bozo.
From Saquon to Justin Herbert, though, because there's a lot of discourse out there about Justin Herbert and whether or not he's overrated. There was a lot of like comparisons early on, even like last year, the year before, between Herbert and Tua. Seeing him perform like that against that, I mean, it's a stingy Texans defense, but seeing him perform pretty much the worst game of his season in the playoffs under the brightest of lights, is Justin Herbert overrated to you, Matt? What's your take on him?
I think people are going. I mean, it depends on how you define overrated. I don't think you judge a guy on 2 playoff games. It was a terrible game. He was awful, but at least 1, if not 2, of those interceptions were not his fault. I mean, Will Dissly couldn't catch a freaking cold, and it's like, catch the ball, dude. And that was a game-changing play. He didn't play a good game. Either way, though, you can't throw more picks in one game than you threw all season. I don't care. You just can't do that. It was a horrible game. Now, could he possibly be that guy who just, can't do it in the playoffs? It's possible, but I don't know that 2 games is a big enough sample size to tell me. Yeah. I'll tell you this much. I mean, of course, I'd rather have Joe Burrow. I wouldn't want Tua over Herbert. I wouldn't want a lot of quarterback. We talked about how bad but how many bad teams there are. There are a lot of bad teams because there are a lot of bad quarterbacks. And guess what? More bad quarterbacks are coming down the pipe. Go take a look at the top draft, the quarterbacks at the top of some predictive lists. They're not good, and it's going to get worse. So yeah, I mean, Herbert had a bad day. He may be no more than an above-average quarterback when it's all said and done. He may be just yet another Chargers, maybe Phillip Rivers all over again. Puts up your numbers, doesn't do anything in the playoffs. But I still take him over a good, 80% of the quarterbacks out there.
Yeah. Alpha, you got anything else to add to that?
Matt put it perfectly. I will say I was on the under in that game that lost by 2 points, and I wanted to jump out my window because that was such the right play, Matt. I believe you were on that under as well. That was absolutely the right play on that game. So that was very frustrating to see that go over. But back to the point of Justin Herbert. He had a very bad game. There's no denying that. But as Matt said, Will Dissly and Ladd McConkey even, the ball was not that high when it went off his fingertips and was picked for a pick 6. So I do think there was a little bit of bad luck involved there. And I also do believe that this Chargers team outperformed what they should have been doing all season long. They were better than their talent on the field. And they got exposed in the playoffs by a team that was probably better than they've played all year season. I think the Texans probably are better than they performed for the duration of the year, even without some of their weapons. So I do believe that the Chargers had a little bit of bad luck, as well as they outperformed their talent all year long, and it eventually caught up to them.
Yeah, and to something to your guys' points, and I can't believe you guys even said it. You guys haven't said his name, but Quentin Johnston. He just got rocks for hands. I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden he just cannot catch anything, dude.
Yeah.
I've seen like the memes going around, like when he got drafted, he's like, yeah, my mom's definitely retiring now. And everyone's down his throat. He's like, she's just unretire her. You're not going to be in the league for like another year. But I feel bad for him just because, man, he's got the yips to the highest degree right now. Quentin Johnston does. But let's move forward. Justin Herbert, still a fantastic quarterback, not a big enough sample size in his playoff career to say he's not a big time quarterback just yet. But one more game like that, I think we'll have enough. We'll have enough. And
I would agree.
Yeah, Ladd McConkey, like that went right through his hands for a pick 6. I mean, some of them there were 4 picks, but yeah, some of them weren't his fault. But to our 50%. Final, to our final headline though, guys, are the Rams for real? And I say this because I have a plus 3,500 ticket on them. Do they,
I remember that.
do they have a chance against the Eagles? I mean, they decimated a 14-win team, albeit, I mean, Sam Darnold looked absolutely atrocious again. But can they go on a run? And is that a Cinderella story waiting to happen? Matt, take it away, brother.
I will get to the game. I'll give a little preview. I don't think so. No. I think when you ask, are the Rams for real? I don't know if the answer is yes or no, but I know Sam Darnold's not for real. You kind of hinted at that. They caught a perfect storm situation. And also, Kevin O'Connell deserves to take a lot of flack for that game too. As much praise as he got during the year, he cost them with some decisions, especially going for on fourth down at the end of the first half. Also not pulling the plug on Darnold. I mean, this is 2 games. You were at the halftime. You saw what he did to the Lions. Like, this guy's seeing ghosts, as he says. Yep. Go to your backup. Try something, because it wasn't going to work with Darnold. But anyway, back to the Rams.
Yeah, that sound clip is honestly just going to live in infamy for him. Like, he should have never said that, because, oh my God, they will take that sound clip that he's saying ghosts to his grave at this point.
Oh, yeah, big time. So, yeah, I mean, I think the Rams – I just think that I don't like the cold up in Philly, and Stafford's not very good in the cold. I wouldn't be shocked. I'll tell you what, if they do win that game, they give the Lions fits twice in the last 2 years. And if the Lions win that game, I mean, maybe so. But you can't not root for the Rams, to given what's going on in LA right now. So I think it's a pretty cool story. But I'll be surprised if it continues beyond this week.
Alpha, are the Rams for real, bud?
No. But that is not any indication on my bet on that game. I'll put it that way. I don't think they're a real Super Bowl threat, but that doesn't mean that they can't compete in this week's game. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. All right, let's head on over to best bets, worst beats. We had a pretty good wild card round. I went 7-5. Alpha went 7-5. Matt, you got some work to do at 4-8, but hey, that's what good thing is about betting. That's the good thing about betting. You can turn it around right now.
Absolutely.
My best bet, though, I think was Rams money line at plus money. It was plus 120. They, of course, showed out for me. My worst bet or my worst beat was Nacua over 89.5 yards. I think he had like 40 after the first quarter, and then Mini just couldn't score. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't put drives together. If they score once or twice, then that forces Stafford to throw, and that forces that Nacua over. But that was probably my worst beat of the week and best bet. Alpha, what about you, brother?
My best bet had to be the Commanders, and they were able to win that one outright. I was very, very happy about that. And my worst beat was really just maybe that under in the Texans game, because that one should have definitely hit. But my worst bet, I'm going to add a section. So best bets, worst beats, worst effing bet, the Minnesota Vikings. Great job, Alpha, you idiot.
Me and Matt were all over him too, because we had a group together, and me and Matt were both on the Rams, and Vikings didn't have a chance right from opening kickoff.
You were right. You guys nailed that. You were definitely right.
Well, I didn't have many good bets, so I guess I got to go with the Rams money line is probably the best one. I mean, I was on the Ravens Steelers under, which should have flown, and it did hit, but it got a little dicey. Shouldn't have been that dicey. My worst beat by far was that Chargers Texans under. I mean, that was ridiculous. You guys realize that the Texans were the biggest. They were the biggest underdog to score the most points in the playoffs, and they scored the most first round, and they scored the most points. Can you believe that? It's 32 points. Yeah. And then as far as my worst, that would be my worst beat. My worst bet is absolutely the Packers. I mean, that was a complete no-show. I thought they'd have a chance to win the game outright. I thought for sure they'd cover, because they were every game they lost pretty much this year was a close loss, and Jordan Love. I put up a poll, guys, and didn't get that many votes, but the votes they got, Jordan Love actually beat out Justin Herbert out of four quarterbacks I put there in terms of the who's overrated right now overreaction thing. I was a little surprised by that, but Jordan Love didn't show up at all.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been a little bit of that Philly defense, but you're right. He absolutely was a no-show.
He was so
not
bad.
On Sam Darnold's level, but he did not show up to work that day.
No, so bad. He was bad.
Real bad. But hey, all right, we've talked about headlines. We've talked about our best bets and worst beats. Let's head on over to why we're even doing the show. Hey, we got the divisional round ahead of us. We got the Texans. We got the Chiefs on Saturday. 55% of the bets are on the Chiefs at minus 8.5. 77% are on the over at 41.5. Alpha, where are you headed for this one, brother?
Man, first game of the weekend, Texans and the Chiefs. And I have to say, this is my least favorite game of the divisional round. And
You guess. It was so funny.
I guess.
He was sending me his plays, and he sent me the play, and he's like, I guess.
Oh, every other one, I'm like, I love this one. For this game, I'm like, I guess, and I have to preface that I probably won't have an actual official pick on this game, but I am leaning the Chiefs in this one. I think the weather is going to play a huge factor. We all know the Texans are a dome team. They're not used to playing in this. And at kickoff, we're projected 21 degrees, frigid in Arrowhead. Like I said, I do think the Texans had a pretty fortunate win last week. They were the much better team for sure. But a lot of those turnovers, the pick sixes, little fortunate for them to get those, and I don't think you're going to see a similar game when they play the Chiefs here. There's plenty of props I love on this game as well, which you can currently see on the screen. I absolutely love Travis Kelce to find the end zone. One big thing I want to talk about. All year on this show, we said Travis Kelce is not going to be a big regular season player. I think every single week when we did our fantasy start him, sit him, I told you to start Brock Bowers and sit Travis Kelce, and it seemed like every single week that was a good decision. Times are different when we hit the NFL playoffs. They are going to unleash Travis Kelce, and we're going to see vintage Travis Kelce in these playoffs. I think the best value right now is Kelce to score a touchdown at plus 160, because when they win this week and they go into next week, he's going to probably be closer to a plus 100. I don't think you're going to get as much value after this week on Travis Kelce. But yes, if I had to pick a side on this game, I would take the Chiefs, but I'm more interested in the props on this game.
And of course, as you can see, hey, Alpha just dropped his Texans Chiefs player props. If you want more props, head on over to Oddspedia Insights and take a look at his analysis, because he's flowing right now. Matt, who are you liking in this Texans Chiefs game?
Yeah, I'm on the Chiefs minus 8.5. I like the way Kansas City played down the stretch. They had those 4 wins by 2, 3, 2, and 2 points. The game, all 4 games they easily could have and should have lost. But they come back and they win 3 games in 10 days by 14, 8, and 19 points. They won 2 of those games on the road. The 8-pointer was at home against Houston, which is pretty much where the line is right now. But this is playoff time. This is Mahomes time. I want to give you Kansas City in 12 home playoff games with Mahomes. They've averaged 32.7 points per game. They scored 31-plus in 7 of those games. They won those games 31-13, 51-31 over the Texans, 42-21, 27-20 over Jacksonville. Mahomes got hurt. Remember his ankle. 27-17 over Cleveland. Mahomes got hurt. Chad Henne came into play. Last year they beat Miami 26-7 in a game that started 4 degrees below zero. So they've had 4 double-digit blowouts in games that Mahomes started and finished in the first round. Prior to last week, Houston beat one playoff team. That was Buffalo, 23-20. That's only because McDermott botched the clock at the end of the game. That game should have gone to overtime. Otherwise, they're 0-5 against playoff teams. They lost to Minnesota, Green Bay, Detroit, Kansas City, Baltimore, and the Texans last year. They beat the Browns 41-14. They blew them out, right? But after that, they go to Baltimore and they get destroyed. So I see a similar situation happening here. They were 2-point underdog against Cleveland last year. They were 2-3-point underdog against the Chargers last week, beat them up. And they were 10-point underdog to Baltimore last week and lost 34-10 in Divisional Round. I see something similar in this game.
And your favorite prop for the game?
I like Mahomes over 248.5 passing yards. He had 260 against Houston last month. He's had 260-plus in 6 of his last 9 games. And in the playoffs at Arrowhead Stadium, 278, 295, 321, 294, 255. That was a Cleveland game. Just a bunch of 325. 11 of 12 home playoff games, guys, over 250 yards. I like Mahomes to light them up.
Me too. I like that. Hey, we've got some variety here because I am on the under, and I don't think that's as crazy as some people think. You know, a lot of money's on the over, and I apologize as well if I start glitching out here, but I'm hoping my internet can hold up. But am I crazy for thinking this game's going to be like a 21-10 game? The struggle for both of these offenses has kind of been well documented. You know, they both rank middle of the pack in terms of scoring offense this season, 16th and 17th. They're being propped up by 2 incredible defenses, and that's probably why they are where they are. That's why the Chiefs' record is what it is. The Chiefs come into this one with a top 5 scoring defense. The Texans sit just outside the top 10. I believe they're 11th or 12th. We all just saw Houston secondary absolutely lock down Justin Herbert a week ago. Stingley is an absolute stud on top of a few other guys. Not one, like we said, not 2. 4 interceptions. Daniil Hunter, Will Anderson on the line, you know, that's going to disrupt the KC offense more than you think. It's going to be another cold game. I look for Mixon and Pacheco to turn the clock down as a result and kind of batter the opposing defense, but the clock will be moving. The defenses will be good enough to keep this under the number. I've got this game total around 38-39, so I'm taking the under 41.5 quite comfortably here. And so I love the under, and I'm going to go Joe Mixon. I know he's kind of been in the news lately about him not practicing a ton, or he's been limited, but I still think he's absolutely going to go. There's no way Joe Mixon misses this game.
I agree.
It's the lingering ankle injury that he's been dealing with pretty much all season from that hip drop tackle, I believe. And the Texans will shoot him up with something. They'll get him out there. His number's only at 59.5 rushing. I think that's incredibly low for who he is. We all know about Kansas City's rushing defense. They rank 5th in the NFL. They give up 105 yards per game. But Mixon's still the engine in Houston, especially without Stephon Diggs. We all know they don't have Tank Dell. Houston's game plan is going to be limiting Patrick Mahomes' time with the ball. In order to do that, you ride Joe Mixon, man. You ride Joe Mixon. I can see him getting 15, 20, possibly 25 carries after they shoot him up with something. He doesn't even feel his ankle. Give me Joe Mixon over 59 rushing, and give me the under in that Texans-Chiefs game. Heading on over to, what do we have next? We got the Lions. Yeah, we got the Commanders and Lions. That could be one of, if not the best game of the slate, knowing the Bills and Ravens are playing. But 51% of bets are on the over 55. 50% are on the Commanders at 9.5. It seems like the public has no idea where to go in this game. Alpha, where are you headed in this game?
Man, this is an interesting one, but it is one of my favorite plays of the round. I am all over the Commanders plus the 9.5 right now. I just think it's too many points for a team that really struggles defensively like the Detroit Lions do right now. They have a ton of injuries. They look great against the Vikings with Sam Darnold, but let's take it back a week. The Vikings and Sam Darnold weren't a threat to anything, so I wouldn't take too much out of that defensive performance. I think we will see the Commanders compete in this game. Do I think the Commanders win this game? Absolutely not. But do I think they lose by double digits? Also, absolutely not. So I do like the Commanders to compete here. My favorite prop on this game, which you could probably see on the screen right now, is going to be Jaden Daniels over 234.5 passing yards. I think the only way they can compete in this game is to throw the ball over and over and over, and I think they will be able to find gaps in the defense. They need to have a better performance than they did against the Bucs in the passing game. In the game against the Bucs, Jaden threw for 270 yards. He needs to surpass that for them to compete in here, and I think he will be able to do that. They should be able to get a couple guys open deep. Either it could be Diami Brown, it could be Terry McLaurin. There's a lot of guys in this team that could take a defense deep, and I do believe we will get Jaden Daniels over 234.5, my favorite prop by far in this game. And yet again, this may be my favorite side of the week. I absolutely love the Commanders plus 9.5. I just think it's too many points. Yet again, though, the Lions will win this game, just not by double digits.
Of course, if you're looking for more props, as you see on your stream, head on over to Oddspedia Insights. Alpha's got this game covered to a T. Matt, where are you headed on this one?
I want to let our viewers out there know I'm not drinking.
I think you're getting a little crazy on this one, but I love it.
At least not yet. Alpha says that there's no way the Commanders are winning this game. I say that there's a pretty good chance. I'm sticking my neck out. I'm going Commanders plus the 9.5. I'm going Commanders money line. I've just seen enough of Jaden Daniels to. The guy is a winner. He's a freaking winner. It's amazing, too. The Lions haven't seen anyone like him this season. They have not. Their defense has not seen anyone like him. Let's not forget this defense is still banged up, too. They got 13 guys on IR, 10 on defense. I know they got a couple key guys back to the defensive line, which is going to be huge. But based on what Daniels did last week, Washington only has one loss by more than 8 points all year. That was week 1 at Tampa Bay. They lost by 17. They avenged that. They hung with Baltimore, 30-23 loss. They're also 11-6-1 against the spread this year, which is just slightly behind Detroit at 12-5 against the spread. Look at Detroit's last 6 games, too. They beat the Bears by 3 at home, the Packers by 3 at home, lost to Buffalo. They won at Chicago by 17. They had to come back and beat an already eliminated dead team, walking Niners team. And then, they beat Darnold and the Vikings. But as Alpha pointed out, how much does that game look after what the Vikings did last week? There's one other thing, guys, I want to bring up to you. This may mean anywhere between a little something and absolutely nothing, but Detroit's offense at Dallas in week 5 put up 5 touchdowns, 492 yards, no turnovers. They won 47-19. Last year at Dallas, 1 touchdown, 420 yards, 2 turnovers. They lost 20-19. The year before at Dallas, no touchdowns, 302 yards, 5 turnovers, and a 24-6 loss. Why do I bring up Dallas? Dallas's defensive coordinator this year was Mike Zimmer. Dallas' defensive coordinator the 2 previous years against the Lions, Dan Quinn. Who's the head coach of Washington? Dan Quinn.
Yep.
Look at this. And your favorite prop, I absolutely love that. That's a deep look. I absolutely love that. Hey, if you're...
Like I said, it probably means more nothing than something, but I thought I'd found it interesting when I found it.
It's definitely a good point.
Commanders plus 400s right there for you. Matt says it's not a
so I'm sprinkle guys on the money line, sprinkle, but I'm with Alpha. Give me the points for sure.
And
I'm on Gene Daniels over. Gene Daniels, I'm riding him too, but I'm going over 1.5 passing touchdowns again. If the Commanders can hang in this game, he's got to have a big game. He's got to do it with his arm, probably more so than his legs. He's got last 6 games he started and finished 2, 3, 5, 2, 3, and 2 passing touchdowns. Detroit only allowed 11 passing touchdowns all season. Only the Bears gave up fewer at 17. But the last 5 games against quarterbacks not named Sam, deer in the headlights, Darnold, Caleb Williams 3 touchdowns, Jordan Love 1, Josh Allen 2, Caleb Williams 2, Brock Purdy 3. So their defense is their secondary has been had a little bit. So like Daniels at +1, it's like 116 at Bet Rivers. You can get plus money on this one.
I love that.
Well, we've got 2 guys on the Commanders. That only means I'm going the absolute other way. And it's honestly just based off principle. I mean, blindly betting the Lions at this point of the season has just made me a ton of money this year. They were, again, the best ATS team in the NFL. They're sitting with a record of 12-5 against the spread. And like I said, am I going to do it again? Am I going to put my money on the Lions again? You're damn right I am. The team is coming off a week's worth of rest. The defense looked incredibly revamped with Anzalone back. We all know that offense with Monty and Gibbs is going to get theirs against the utterly awful rush defense of the Commanders. The thing I always ask myself when betting on a Lions game, it's like, will the opposing team be able to keep up with the Detroit's offense? I mean, I love me some Jaden Daniels. Don't get me wrong. I know the Lions aren't good against mobile QBs either, but I just don't see a rookie quarterback coming into Ford Field, being able to keep pace with the best offense the NFL has seen in quite some time. I'm going to lay the 9 points. For as much as I like Washington, they kind of barely squeaked by a Tampa team whose defense was just riddled with injuries. I can't see them knocking on the door come the fourth quarter, so I'm gonna lay the 9 points with the Lions. I absolutely love that play. And then for my prop as well, I'm gonna go with Jahmyr Gibbs over 79.5 rushing. I think it's only like a -130 play at some sports books, but I know Monty's back, but he'll likely be playing in a limited capacity in his first game back from injury. Leaving the majority, if not all, the volume to Gibbs. I mean, did we all just see what he did against the Vikings? I'm not sure why this number is so low, probably because of Monty coming back, but the Vikings rank better than Washington's rushing defense in all categories. Gibbs is just a big play waiting to happen. He is just electric out there. 5.6 yards per attempt, 5th in the NFL for Jahmyr Gibbs. All it takes is for 1 or 2 big plays, and this number is a relatively easy over. So I'm going to go Lions -9. I'm going to go Gibbs over 79.5 rushing. I love the Lions in this one. Go Detroit.
Little different opinions here. We'll see what happens.
Real quick on this game, guys. I think that it's not really a rocket science here, but the Commanders can't get down 2 scores early. If they are, this game's a disaster waiting to happen. They have to score quickly, and they have to at least force a punt or 2 on the first couple of Lions drives, just to not only gain their confidence, but to start putting some doubt in the Lions, going, "Oh no, we're in a dogfight here." It's huge. Yeah. We'll know by the midpoint of the first quarter which way this game's gonna go.
Yeah, I think the biggest matchup in that game is going to be the Commanders' rushing defense. Like, are they going to be able to stop Jahmyr Gibbs? Are they going to be able to stop David Montgomery? I don't see it. I know they did a pretty good job last week, but that's Bucky Irving compared to, Bucky Irving was nasty this year. Don't get me wrong. I love Bucky, but it's a whole different level when you get to Detroit and you get to that scheme and you get to Gibbs and you get to Montgomery. So we'll see how they hold up. But yeah, one of my favorite games on the slate for sure. Let's head on over. As you can see, we got Rams, we got Eagles. We got player props for you over at Insights by our man, Mitch Bannon. We've got 52% on the Rams at +6.5. 69% of public bets are on the over at 44. Alpha, where are you headed on this one?
Over to me, Rams, Eagles. This is an interesting one to me because I did not believe in the Rams in the first week. And I did tell you at the start of the show, I don't believe that the Rams have a chance to make a Super Bowl run. However, I think the Rams cover this ball game in the +6.5 against the Eagles. I know it's in Philly, but was anybody impressed with this Eagles offense outside of maybe Saquon last week? I think Jalen Hurts looked terrible. I'm not a big Jalen Hurts guy in general, and I just don't think that he has it in the playoffs right now. I know he's coming back from the concussion, but this Eagles offense did not impress me at all. And this Rams team looked great on both sides of the ball. Yet again, how much stock do we put in it? Because it was against the Vikings, who right now seemed like they were the biggest frauds in the playoffs. However, I do think the Rams will have a big performance here. Do I think they win the game? Very similarly to the Commanders game, I do not think the Rams will win this game. but I don't think they lose this one by more than a touchdown. I think they're a good enough team, and I think they're better coached than the Eagles are, and I think that they will be coached well enough to keep this one within a touchdown. This one should end in a 3 to 5 point range, and we'll be able to cash it from there.
And your favorite prop?
My favorite prop on this one, that's a good one, because there's a couple props that I really did like in this game. I'd probably have to go with Kyren Williams. I do think Kyren Williams to find the end zone is probably your best advantage in this game. So that's what I'm going to be taking here. Kyren anytime touchdown. Let me get the updated odds, because it has been fluctuating a good bit. We've seen a lot of the anytime touchdown odds fluctuate a lot so far before we get to these games. And right now, Kyren's at plus 100. He is a guy who scored a lot of touchdowns this year. He's the guy they lean on heavily in the red zone. And I could see something where the Eagles commit a pass interference, a penalty in the end zone. They puts the Rams at the 1 yard line. If the Rams are at the 1 yard line, you can already cash that bet, because they will give it to Kyren, and he will be able to find the end zone from there. So at plus 100, definitely some value on Kyren Williams.
So we got Rams plus 6.5. We got Kyren Williams anytime touchdown. Matt, where are you headed? I think you're going somewhere different here, aren't you?
Yeah, I am going different. I don't love this play. I'm rooting for you on that anytime touchdown, but I will point out I was on Josh Jacobs' anytime touchdown last week because he'd scored 8 in a row. And the Phillies defense does what Phillies defense does. They don't let anybody in the end zone on the ground. And when they do, though, it's from 1 yard out. I think the last 4 or 5 touchdowns they've given up on the ground are all from 1 yard out. So I'm rooting for that pass interference penalty for you. I got the Eagles -6. I toyed with taking the under this game because I think the weather is going to be a factor, and I know Stafford doesn't play well in weather. And the Rams offense is just a different beast when it's outdoors and there's weather involved. It's just hard to get away from Philly right now. 13-1 in their last 14 games, 8-0 at home, including 1 win with Kenny Pickett as their quarterback and 1 win with Tanner McGee as their quarterback. Their victory margins in their last 10 games, Jalen Hurts has started and finished 12-14. They only beat Carolina by 6 at home. They won at Baltimore by 5, 17-8, 28, beat Jacksonville by 5 at home, 20-25. So more or less blowing teams out. I don't like the close game against Jacksonville or Carolina or the 2016 home win against Cleveland. Those are concerning and tells you that this team can sometimes just not show up. So that is a concern. But look at Philly, 37-20. They went out to LA this year and just beat up the Rams. Barkley went wild. Philly in week 5 last year went to LA, won 23-14. And the Rams offense just on the road this year, they put up 28 in New England and 26 in overtime. They scored a touchdown in Seattle. Otherwise, 20, 10, 18, 21, 12, and 19 points. They just don't score on the road. Stafford in the rain in San Francisco back in week 16 wasn't very good. In week 17 against the Jets, it was 23 degrees. He went 14 for 19 for 110 yards. Rams coming off a big emotional win, playing for their city. I just think they're a little emotionally spent this week. They have to go back to work, and they have to go back on the road, and this time cross country. So I think that Philly's got them in the right spot. And I'm laying the 6. I'm not doing it with extreme confidence, though, because I could see the Rams covering this game. But I think with the way the Eagles are playing right now and the Rams kind of on a deflated situation, I think it's a recipe for an Eagles win by about 10.
And your favorite prop for the game, brother?
I'm going A.J. Brown over 4.5 receptions. It's a little juicy, -137 at Bet Rivers is the best price you can get. He only had 1 catch for 10 yards against Green Bay. We all know he was on the sidelines reading his book that made an author a bunch of money this week. Nice for him.
That was actually insane. I think he had like 500,000% difference in books sold after. Just the fact that ridiculous. One little thing can change somebody's life like that, I don't know. That gets me every time.
It's amazing. A.J. Brown last year against the Rams had 6 catches. This year against the Rams, he had 6 catches. And again, about that 1 catch last week. Since being traded to Philly prior to the 2022 season, Brown and Jalen Hurts have started and finished 46 games together, including the playoffs. In those 46 games, Brown has caught fewer than 5 passes in back-to-back contests just twice. So A.J. Brown usually gets fed the week after he doesn't get fed. That's why I like the A.J. Brown to get about 6 receptions.
And some of those times, though, he went to the media and said, "Hey, I don't get the ball." And then the next weekend, they just force feed him, which you know they probably will. You know, there is something there. I like that. I actually think I'm going to play that as well with you. I like A.J. Brown getting 5 at least there. Me, I'm going with the Rams plus 6.5. I'm going to stick with Alpha. I mean, how about them Rams? And I've said like my plus 3,500 ticket. It's looking mighty good right now. And hopefully it doesn't stop in the divisional round. I mean, I do think the Eagles win this, but I also think the Rams cover this. I'm not crazy enough to take the Rams on the money line here, but like I said, I do believe it's going to be tight coming down to the 4th quarter. And who else will be able to keep it close as an underdog? Do you believe in Stafford, McVay, the rest of that offense, Puka? I mean, Cooper Kupp's got to do something at some point, right? I believe in them. On the other side, the Rams defense is playing their best football, their best stretch of football in their entire season. Over their 6-game winning streak. I'm not counting their Week 18 loss when they didn't have their starters in, but other than that, they had 6 games in a row when they got a W. They allowed no more than 14 points in 5 of those 6 games. They allowed just 9 points to San Fran, Arizona, the Jets, of course, the Vikings. I mean, it's not incredible offenses they're playing there, but there is something to see there. And last week, they got to Sam Darnold 9 times. Like the second quarterback 9 times in one game, just absolutely insane to me. With Jalen Hurts not playing his best football, I think the Rams stack the box against Saquon. I think they keep this one close. I'm going to go Rams plus 6.5. And I'm going to go back to the well. I'm going to go back to my worst beat from last week. And I'm going to go Puka Nacua over 89.5 receiving. I think we should hit this over because the Eagles can actually put points on the board, unlike the Vikings. Last week, you saw Stafford on the first drive. I think he had 9+ passing attempts. Kyron had 2 rushing attempts after the first quarter and a few minutes into the second. I mean, it was just nonstop West Coast offense from the Rams, and I think we see that again here, even though Philly's pass defense is pretty damn good. I think Stafford trusts the big guys to get it done when it's all on the line. I fully expect him to be airing it out once again, and I fully expect Puka to have one of those Puka days, man. I think nobody's ever going to be surprised when you see him over 100 yards at the end of the day. So give me Puka over 89.5 receiving. I also like Kupp, like I said, to see more targets in this one. I might sprinkle over 3.5 receptions at minus 130 for Kupp, just because he's been an absolute no-show and everyone's starting to key in on Puka. It could be Kupp's game here, but I'm going to stick with Puka. I like Kupp's receptions, but those are my plays there. And now we've got the biggest game of the season. Honestly, let's just say whoever wins this game should win NFL MVP. Like I don't make the rules. That's just how it should happen. And also, I don't think it was my internet because Alpha's been in and out. So it's got to be Alpha's internet now.
That's what I'm sneezing. I apologize to everybody. I am sick. So I'm trying my best to not let everyone know.
See it. Show us.
You don't want to see it, I promise. If you see me cutting off and coming back and my nose is all red, you understand why.
I thought it was
some 3D action coming at you.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like I said, boys, we've got the Ravens, we got the Bills. Matt sent us a tweet before the show went live. It's gonna be snowing like crazy in Buffalo, and stop me if you heard this again. Like it feels like it's always snowing in Buffalo come this time, and it's like they always need the fans to come in and help clean up the football field. But it's another Buffalo playoff game, just a vintage Buffalo playoff game. We've got 57% of bets on the over at 51 in this one. 52% are on the Ravens at minus 1.5. It's even money on both sides. Nobody knows who to bet. Matt, where are you headed on this one, brother?
This game is every bit the coin flip that the point spread says to me. I mean, I don't. It's actually generally speaking, it's an easy game to handicap, and it comes down to this: can the Bills stop Derrick Henry, and can Josh Allen do anything against the Ravens defense? That's where this game is for me, as I see it. And I don't think the Bills are going to be able to stop Derrick Henry. They couldn't back in week 4, long time ago. I get it, but he went nuts in that game. And Lamar had a good rushing game, too, in that game. And obviously Lamar's an X factor, too. But this is going to be a Derrick Henry game, just like the Steelers game was a Derrick Henry game. So, and, I do think, as you'll see my props, it won't be one we discuss here, but I do like Josh Allen, believe it or not, to get over his rushing total, which no one does against the Ravens defense, because he just has to for the Ravens to compete in this game.
Yep.
Okay, he has to run. That ball has to be in his hands 98.2% of the time. It just has to. I just don't think – I can't get that 35-10 game out of my head. And again, it was in Baltimore, and it was a long time ago. And I just can't get what Derrick Henry did last week. And I can't believe the Ravens would be stupid to get away from that game plan. I don't care if Buffalo knows what you're going to do. Do it. Do what you do. And Lamar will do what he does. He'll have some end runs, play action passes that work off of Henry. That's going to work too. But they got to get Henry going. If Henry doesn't get going early, and Buffalo gains that confidence, I think the Bills win this game. But I just think I trust Henry to do his job a little bit more than I trust Allen to do his job. It's not that I don't trust Allen. It's just that Ravens defense is going to be tough to beat. So by a hair, I got the Ravens.
I think honestly, it's going to come down to, I think, red zone efficiency, because we all know it could be like a 3-point game come the fourth quarter, a tie game come the fourth quarter. It's going to come down to who can capitalize and who can finish, man. Matt, your best prop as we throw, of course, the insights. If you head on over to Oddspedia Insights, you get his full analysis on all 5 prop plays that Matt's dishing out. But Matt, what's your best prop for this Ravens-Bills game?
Yeah, it correlates with what I just talked about, and it's the same play I had last week too, and it's Lamar Jackson under his passing yards total. This number's come down. It was 226.5 in a couple books as recently as yesterday. I don't get it. I don't get why it's that high. In 8 playoff games, he's thrown for more than 200 yards, actually 195. He's only thrown for more than 195 yards 2 times. He threw for 365 in Tennessee when they were down big and lost 28-12 as a 10-point favorite, and 272 in the AFC title game last year against Kansas City, game they lost. So other than that, 194 or less. In the 2020 playoff game at Buffalo, he had 162 yards in a 17-3 loss. He's been held under 220 yards passing in 6 of his last 8 games since week 11. And 4 career starts against Buffalo. We'll throw that playoff game back in there. 145, 144, 156 this year, which, by the way, was his season low, and 162 in the playoffs. So, and then throw the weather on top of it. Unless he hits a big play or two, I see this being an easy under.
I think the line's going to be moving a bit now that the weather was just announced as well. Yeah. So hop on the 226 while you can. But Alpha, before we get into your plays for this one, you've got some breaking news. We've got a banner for it and everything.
A little bit of breaking news, guys. It does appear that Joe Mixon was just announced that he will be active and playing in the Texans game. So big news for Texans backers, big news for Joe Mixon backers. And I know there's a gentleman on here that believes in Joe Mixon. So good news for you, sir. Joe Mixon will be playing as you predicted perfectly.
Joe Mixon over 59.5 rushing yards sitting right there for you. Gobble it up. All right, Alpha.
There we go.
Your pick for Bills, Ravens. Shocker, you and Matt are on different sides.
I am on the Buffalo Bills, and I think that they will have a huge performance at home here against the Ravens. And guys, one thing I'm a little worried about, and it is one of Matt's props. I absolutely love everything Derrick Henry. It is going to be 15 degrees at kickoff in a frigid Buffalo stadium. I'll tell you one thing. There's one person in the world I don't want running at me in 15 degrees, and that's the small semi-truck in Derrick Henry. That can't feel good in the frozen weather getting run over by him. However, I believe more in Josh Allen than I do in Lamar Jackson. I do believe that Lamar Jackson has showed us in the playoffs that he has a couple lapse moments. I could see the Bills dialing up some blitzes, the Bills dialing up some defenses that they do not expect, and I do think that will confuse and throw off the game of Lamar a little bit. And we've seen that happen in almost every single playoffs since Lamar's entered the league. I think this is the round we see it again. And Buffalo does what Buffalo does. They win in the playoffs unless they're versing the Kansas City Chiefs. I think we see that repeat yet again in this ball game this weekend.
We got Parlay Prince coming in. Ravens flock. I mean, okay. Matt's on it. Shocker. I'm going to be on it as well. But before we get into me, hey, Alpha, your best prop of the game. Shout out Parlay Prince, brother. Thanks
James Cook, anytime touchdown. Shout out Parlay Prince. Appreciate you, bro. And I do think James Cook will get in the end zone. I think we'll find it at least once here. Like I said, the weather's frigid. It's cold. And in the red zone, I think we're going to see a healthy dose of both quarterbacks running and the running backs running. And I do think we will see James Cook find his way in there, and he will be able to get it. Just remember, Dustin, I'm not sure if you're aware of my guy Parlay Prince, but as you can see in the comments right there,
everyone knows I'm a fade.
So he may be implying to take the Bills here a little bit. It's part of his shtick a little bit. So you never know what his comment.
Hey, everyone's right once in a while. Everyone's right once in a while. I think you're right here, Parlay Prince. You know, hey, we need some confidence out of you because I'm on the Ravens -1.5 as well. To me, I think Matt touched upon it as well. The Ravens are just the better team on paper. When you get into the game of this magnitude, you follow the matchups. I mean, as evidenced by their matchup earlier this year, I mean, the Bills' rush defense can be had. And I'm having issues, like Matt said, seeing how this Bills defense can stop Derrick Henry, even with Milano now back. Let's not forget, you know, he rushed 24 times for 199 yards, 3 touchdowns in week 4. He's going to be unleashed once again. You guys bring up the weather. But another thing that we saw last week from this Ravens defense was that run option game, dude. It was just utterly disgusting. Between Lamar and King Henry, it was just devastating. I don't see how the Bills can stack stops in this matchup, whereas I can see the Ravens unit making stops against Josh Allen in that Buffalo offense. It comes down to this, to me, like who's got the better supporting cast? And I'm hoping Zay Flower plays. He hasn't practiced all week. That's a big loss for Baltimore if he doesn't. But I still think the Ravens have the better supporting cast. They're the #1 rushing defense in the NFL this season. while their passing defense wasn't nearly as good, I think the weather is going to limit the passing. There's going to be a ton of snow on the ground. I'm going Ravens -1.5 here. And then to top off the show with 450 people here, we all talked about King Henry, man. That guy is an absolute freak. He simply just hasn't been able to be stopped. Nobody can stop him. Over his last 4 games, he's rushed for 186 yards and 2 touchdowns, 138 yards and 2 touchdowns, 147 yards and a touchdown. I mean, we've talked about how incredible King Henry has been. Of course, he went for 199 yards and 3 against the Bills, like I said off the top. But how in your right mind can you go against this guy right now with that weather? I'm looking for Henry to batter this defense in the cold and take this over comfortably. Alpha, you're liking Derrick Henry. I think everyone's and their mother's going to be on the Derrick Henry over, which is the only thing I'm scared of.
It's scary, bro. It is scary knowing how many people are going to be on that over, but really in the frigid weather, it's just so tough to tackle the beast of Derrick Henry. I don't see how he doesn't get at least 100 yards. I just don't.
Yeah,
and I'm on the Bills. Yeah. And I'm on the Bills.
Exactly. Like it has to come down to King Henry in this magnitude with that weather. I love that play. That's probably one of my favorite plays of the day. But fellas, hey, just like that, that's the divisional round. Wrap it up. 45 minutes. We've got 465 of you in here. Let's win some cash together this weekend, just like we did last weekend. Remember, hey, whether you tail us, whether you fade us, we absolutely love you. Before we end it, Parlay Prince has a question. What team upsets this weekend? I mean, you guys talked about it a little bit. Matt, what team upsets this weekend?
Well, I'm on the commies. I'm on the Commanders. It's a long shot. But I think if you're looking, I don't actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna stick with it. I'm just saying,
let's go.
They got the best.
Stick with it, man.
I don't see the Rams winning. I definitely don't see the Texans winning. Wouldn't call the other game an upset. So
correct,
yeah. You heard it here first, man. Upset of the week could be the Commanders money line. You could get that plus 400. Hey, from everyone here, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We'll be back next week to cap the conference championships. I can't believe we're here already. From Alpha, for Matt.
Wait, whoa.
What?
We're not going to be here for Monday, bro. Does anybody have a national championship?
Wow, good call.
College football bet, because we can't not give the people a football championship bet. I don't care if it's Arena League, XFL, NFL, or college.
That's a good call. Bet. Wow, how did we not even talk about this? Yeah, before we leave, we got to give our plays. I'm going to Ohio State. I mean, I don't know who can stop that team right now. They just looked absolutely incredible. And of course, as I say that, I feel better because the known fade god, Parlay Prince, Notre Dame money line. I mean, watching Sawyer run down the sidelines with that strip sack fumble last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was just, beautiful. That defense and that offense, it's going to be very tough to beat this Ohio State team. So I'm going to Ohio State. Alpha, where are you headed on that one?
Ohio State by 90. Ohio State by 90 points. Say goodbye to college football. Marcus Freeman's going to be gone. He's going to the NFL. I'm very convinced on that. I think he's going a little early. Think he could use 1 or 2 more years in college, but I'm a huge Marcus Freeman guy. However, Ohio State is just such a better football team, and it just feels this is their year. The Buckeyes get it done. I think roll by at least 2 touchdowns.
Matt, close the show out with your pick. Where are you headed?
Yeah, I see a lot of money starting to come in on Notre Dame. A lot of sharp money too. That number's dropped a bit, but I don't see how you take those points. I think, look, if James Franklin doesn't do what James Franklin always does in the big game, Notre Dame's not there, and that crappy Penn State team is there. And I think Ohio State would murder them by 2 touchdowns. So, unless touchdown Jesus is going to sprinkle some blessings on that football field on Monday, I think Ohio State wins this game pretty comfortably.
You heard it here first. All 3 of us on Ohio State. Have yourself a great weekend with the NFL playoffs. Have yourself a great Monday with the Natty coming up. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.